guys, welcome to our June 14th Sunday school lesson. We're continuing onward with our story of Moses. Last week, Moses and the Israelites crossed from Egypt over through the Red Sea and into the wilderness. So for the next couple weeks, we're going to be talking about their journey through the wilderness. Hope you're having a good time learning about Moses, and I hope you're enjoying your summer. Hey, Dave.
Hey, Christy! Hey, fancy seeing you again.
Fancy seeing you too. Hey, have I shown you my vacation pictures?
Yes, you have.
Did I show you about the time we went to the Grand Canyon?
Yes, and the biggest skillet in Iowa, and the giant Superman statue.
What about our camping trip? Did I show you those?
Camping trip?
Oh, you have to see these pictures.
I do.
Oh yeah, this is my dad picking out which campsite. And this is him packing our tent, or unpacking our tent, yeah. This is my dad trying to help us set up the tent. Not as easy as it looks. Here he is reading the directions on how to set up the tent. And, well, that's him jumping up and down, stomping on the tent because he couldn't figure it out.
Looks like my dad on a camping trip.
Yeah. Well, this is us trying to start a fire. See, we're rubbing two sticks together. And in this picture, my dad is using a lighter because we couldn't figure out how to make the two sticks work. And in this picture, we're cooking s'mores at the fire. And in this picture, we're hiding in the van because the bears smelled our s'mores and came charging in on us.
Wow, that had to be scary.
No, not really. Well, except for the part when the bears climbed on the roof of the van and they started jumping up and down and it blew all the air out of all four of our tires.
You took pictures of all of this?
Of course. See, here's a picture of the tires the next morning. And here's a picture of the tent that the bears ripped to shreds. And here's a picture of the mechanic who charged my dad way too much money for those tires. And then here's a picture of us on night 2 of our camping trip.
That looks like a Holiday Inn.
That's not a Holiday Inn, that's a Hampton Inn.
Man, if I had a camping trip like that, I'm not sure if I'd ever want to go camping again.
I mean, I'll admit it wasn't the best night in the woods, but through it all we had what we needed. We had shelter in the van, we had plenty of food, we had plenty of money to buy new tires and a hotel room, but most importantly, we had each other.
Yeah, that is true.
God provides for us, Dave. Whether we're out in the woods or just chilling at home, God will always give us what we need.
Good thing God's looking out for you on these vacations, especially in bear country.
And snake country.
Snake country?
I didn't show you the snake pictures?
Oh no. Hello. So how many of you guys have ever been on a camp out? How many of you have ever camped in a camper? How many of you guys camped in a tent before? Who has camped so many times with their families and they just love it and they go often? Now how many of you just hate camping and would never go? Camping has always been a popular way to vacation for some people. The good thing about camping is it allows you to enjoy the great outdoors. It gives you away from the comforts of home and hotels. It separates you from the TV and the internet and video games. It puts you close to nature where you can hike and fish and look at the birds. But the bad part of camping is that it takes place outdoors. There's no TV, no internet, no video games. There's rain, heat, humidity. There's sweating and getting dirty. There's dirty showers and smelly chemical toilets. And then there are the bugs. Lots of bugs. Bugs that crawl and get into everything. Bugs that fly around. And there's also bears and squirrels and coyotes. And everyone's favorite, snakes. Camping can either be a joy or a nightmare. And a lot of it depends on your own preparations. If you plan ahead, you can have everything you need on hand to make your camping trip successful. That means you need to have food and water and sleeping bags and sunscreen and maps and flashlights and cookware. Something to help you cook or start a fire if you're going to need it out of the woods. You better pack it at home or you'll be lost without it. Sometimes we can prepare for the challenges in our lives. We can plan ahead and pack for what we need in the next leg of our journey. But what happens when you end up somewhere you never expected to be? What if you take a turn that you never wanted to take, and then you find yourself lost or in need of help? Let's check in with our friends the Israelites. As they made their way into the wilderness, in spite of having God leading the way, they were still complaining.
Hi guys, hope you're ready for our Bible story this week. We're going to be talking about the Israelites and their travels through the wilderness. So we will be in our Bibles. Again, we're going to be in the book of Exodus. It's the second book of the Bible, so we're near the front of the Bible. And this week, we're going to be in chapter 16. So look for the big 1-6. Exodus 16. So I hope you remember, I hope you've been tuning in for the other stories, but just as a quick reminder, we've been learning about Moses. We learned all the way from when he was a baby through Pharaoh freeing the Israelites with the 10 plagues, Passover, how the Israelites were trapped up against the Red Sea. They were stuck. Pharaoh's army was behind them, the Red Sea was in front of them, and they thought, we were better off in Egypt. At least there we weren't going to die. We were slaves and we hated it. But here we're obviously going to die because we can't go forward and the army of Pharaoh is coming up behind us to kill us. But God made a way and they got through the Red Sea. So today we're going to hear about another complaint that the Israelites had and how God handled that. So I hope you're at Exodus chapter 16 by now. I'm going to read out loud. It said, verse 1, the whole community of Israel started out from Elim. They went to the desert of Sin. It was between Elim and Sinai. They arrived there on the 15th day of the second month after they had come out of Egypt. In the desert, the whole community told Moses and Aaron that they weren't happy with them. That's what I hope you see up here. We've got Moses and Aaron, and the whole community of Israelites again have something to complain about to Moses and Aaron. Verse 3, the Israelites said to them, we wish the Lord had put us to death in Egypt. There we sat around pots of meat. We ate all the food we wanted. But you have brought us into this desert. You must want our entire community to die of hunger. You see, the guys, the Israelites were hungry. I don't know how many of you have been to a desert. I hope if you've been to a desert, you'll send me an email or a message and let me know that you've been there. But if you haven't been there, deserts don't have many plants growing. And plants are what people eat for food when they're out in the wilderness. If they're hiking or camping, they find plants to eat or animals to eat. But if there's no plants in the desert, there aren't very many animals either. So the Israelites were this huge group of people traveling through a desert. And they couldn't find enough food to eat. They were very hungry. So they complained to Aaron and Moses again. And they said, we wish we had just died in Egypt. They were really upset about how hungry they were. So verse 4. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, and he said, I will rain down bread from heaven for you. Now, I don't know about you, but when I hear the sentence, I will rain down bread from heaven on you, I think of the movie Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Have any of you seen that movie where the food actually falls from the sky like weather and rain? That's what I think God was saying. I'm going to rain down bread from heaven for you. The people must go out each day, have them gather enough bread for that day. Here's how I will put them to the test, and I will see if they follow my directions. On the 6th day, they must prepare what they bring in. And on that day, the 6th day, they must gather twice as much as on the other days. So Moses and Aaron spoke to all the people of Israel, and they said, in the evening you will know that the Lord brought you out of Egypt. And in the morning you will see the glory of God. He has heard you say that you're not happy with him. Who are we? Why are you telling us that you aren't happy with us? Verse 8. Moses also said, you will know that the Lord has heard you speak against him. He will give you meat to eat in the evening, and he will give you all the bread you want in the morning. But who are we? You aren't speaking against us. You're speaking against the Lord. Then Moses told Aaron, talk to the whole community of Israel and say to them, come to the Lord, because he has heard you speak against him. While Aaron was talking to the whole community of Israel, they looked toward the desert. And there was the glory of the Lord appearing in a cloud. The Lord said to Moses, I have heard the people of Israel talking about how unhappy they are. Tell them, when the sun goes down, you will eat meat. In the morning, you will be filled with bread. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God. That evening, quail came and covered the camp. And in the morning, what do you think was there? I'm going to put some quail up here. So in the evening, quail came down. For those of you bird hunters out there, quail's a common hunting bird. So they were able to capture the quail and eat it. And in the morning, the ground around the camp was covered with dew. Verse 14. When the dew was gone, thin flakes appeared on the desert floor. They looked like frost on the ground. The people of Israel saw the flakes and they asked each other, what's this? They didn't know. Moses said to them, this is the bread that the Lord has given you to eat. Here is what the Lord has commanded. He has said, each one of you should gather as much as you need. You should take 2 quarts for each person who lives in your tent. The people of Israel did as they were told. Some gathered a lot and some gathered a little. When they measured it out, those who gathered a lot didn't have too much, and those who gathered a little had enough, and all of them gathered only as much as they needed. Then Moses said to them, don't keep anything until morning. You see, guys, the rule was don't save it. Just take what you need and don't save it. But that was probably a hard rule for the Israelites because they were used to being hungry. They probably really wanted to save it. Verse 20. But some of them didn't pay any attention to Moses. They kept part of it until morning. But it was full of maggots, worms, and it began to stink. So Moses became angry with them. Verse 21. Each morning all of them gathered as much as they needed, but by the hottest time of the day the thin flakes had melted away. On the 6th day the people gathered twice as much. It amounted to 4 quarts per person. The leaders of the community came and reported that to Moses, and he said to them, here is what the Lord commanded. He said, tomorrow will be a day of rest. It will be a holy Sabbath day. It will be set apart for the Lord. So bake whatever you want to bake. Boil what you want to boil and save what is left over and keep it until morning. So the food that God provided to the Israelites floated down from heaven. It came in the form of quail for meat in the evenings and manna in the mornings. And all they had to do was go out on the ground and pick it up and gather it up, and they could take it back and bake with it. God provided food for the Israelites even in the middle of the desert. But the Israelites weren't very grateful because the food came with instructions, and the instructions said from God, don't try to save it. Just take what you need. Don't take too much. And anytime people took too much, it would spoil and get maggots in it and get smelly. Okay? God knows what we need. God knew what the Israelites needed before they asked for it. But they didn't ask in faith. They didn't ask believing that God would provide for them. They thought God was not going to provide for them, that God wasn't real and God wasn't powerful and God couldn't save them from hunger and starvation in the desert. But God could. God knew what they needed. He wanted the people to believe in him, that he was going to provide for them. Because God knows what we need before he asks. He just wants us to ask. And he wants to give it to us. When we find ourselves in need, we can trust God to give us what we need. Here's the thing. This is kind of like camping, okay? Camping is a challenge. Sometimes when you're out in the woods, you have to put up with a lot of discomfort, especially if you're me and you don't exactly love bugs and humidity and hot weather and cold weather and bugs. Yeah, it might even be rainy or windy. That can make all the fun of camping turn sour or go bad. But even on the worst of nights, we can always find something to be thankful for. We could be thankful that we have a tent to help keep us out of the elements. We could be thankful for the food and the water that we have, or the beautiful scenery around us to enjoy when we're camping. We could also be thankful for our good friends and our family. But sometimes life is harder than a camping trip. Sometimes we find ourselves in some really difficult situations, some storms in life that feel like they're never going to end and that there is no solution. We wonder how things got this bad and how we'll ever get out of this situation. And so when there's times like that in your life, isn't it just good to know that God knows exactly what you need before you even ask for it, and He's going to provide exactly what you need? Just like God did for Israel when He provided them the manna and the quail when they were hungry, God can bless me and He can bless you in ways that you haven't even thought up yet, that you couldn't even imagine. God knows what we need before we ask, but He still wants us to ask. He wants us to say, God, I know you provide. I trust you. Give me what I need. When you trust God like that, big things and little things like that, He's always going to answer your requests, and He's always going to provide for you, because God is powerful and He will always give us what we need. So you should thank God every day for the small things that He's given you, and trust Him that He's always going to meet your needs. Lord, thank you so much for providing us with everything that we need. Even when life is tough and things aren't going right, you always provide exactly what we need. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for wanting that relationship with us, Lord, for wanting us to talk to you and to ask you for things that we need. Thank you for your provisions, for the family and friends that you've put in our lives, for the homes and the places that we live. Lord, thank you for your blessings on us. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, guys, I've got some questions for you about the story today. So hopefully you've got someone around that you can talk to about our story and reread it if you need to. Again, it was in Exodus chapter 16. My first question for you is, why were the Israelites complaining? Why were the Israelites complaining? Was this the first time they had complained? Was this the first time they had complained? Did the Israelites have faith that God would take care of them? Did the Israelites have faith that God would take care of them? What was God's instructions for the manna? He gave them some rules. He said, I'm going to provide you manna from heaven. Here's the rules. What were the rules? What were the instructions? Why do you think God gave those instructions? Why would God give instructions like that? And then this last one, I want you to think of some things that God has done to provide for you. They can be little things, but what are some things that God has done to provide for you? All right, guys, I hope you have a great week. I hope your summer is getting off to a great start and that you're enjoying the summer weather. We'll see you next week. Bye.